It's hard for me to express. Pride that I feel on a night like tonight. Because my little family is a small part of that story. The story of Ireland and America. Like so many of my fellow countrymen, I literally carry Ireland with me everywhere I go. On one of my first trips to Ireland, when I was a young man, I was sitting, what did you call it, in a public house. Pat Morrissey's pub. It's still open in Doonbeg to this day. Pat was around back then, and he let me help out behind the bar. I'll never forget the little old lady who spoke to me, and I told her very quickly that I was related to the Morrisseys, distant cousins. And I said, actually, I'm Irish by heritage. And she looked at me and smiled and said, you don't have to tell me, son, you got a face like the map of Ireland. And it does all go back to that day. It was Inauguration Day just a few short weeks ago. People asked me what I was thinking about, surrounded by my wife and my children, our beautiful daughter-in-law. My mother was just there, a few seats behind the president. I just kept thinking of that day in April of 1923. That was the day when Richard Michael Cawley stepped off the boat on Ellis Island. He was in his early 20s when he steamed into upper New York Bay aboard the Andadia, the ship that carried him here. I can't imagine what the sight of the Statue of Liberty meant to him that day, holding along the torch of freedom. My grandfather went home to be with the Lord when I was in about my 26th year, but we were very close. He said I was the only Irishman born among the 4 boys in our family. Not sure yet what that meant, but I was flattered by it. My grandpa had grown up in a little town called Tubbercurry in County Sligo. When I was a young man, I had a chance to visit that house before they tore it down. It was just a 2-room house where his 8 brothers and sisters grew up. I literally walked up the hill that when Karen and I and the kids visited Ireland just a few years ago. We walked up that hill as well. The legend in our family was my great-grandmother that stood outside that little house and looked over at the Ox Mountains and looked off to the west and told him that he needed to go because she said, there's a future there for you. He wouldn't speak to his mother for 25 years. When he said the old country, he said it with a reverence that I could never adequately express. Talked about crossing the pond. Talked about the heartbreak of that separation. But as I stood on that inaugural stage, I just kept thinking of that Irishman. I kept thinking of what he would be thinking about looking down from glory. And I know 2 things for sure. Number 1, knowing me as well as he did, he would be extremely surprised. Number 2, I have to think, he just thought he was right. He was right about America. He was right to summon the courage as generations did before and since to come here and follow their dreams, to make the contributions that they did. He was right to drive that bus for 40 years in Chicago. He was right to raise that irascible redhead that would marry a fast-talking salesman and follow work down to a little small farm town in southern Indiana and raise 6 kids with the same heritage and the same values that she'd been raised with. The truth is that whatever honors I will receive over the course of my service as Vice President, to receive an honor in the name of the Irish people and my Irish heritage will count as chief among them. Because all that I am and all that I will ever be and all the service that I will ever render is owing to my Irish heritage, and I will summon what is the best of it as I serve the people of this country with the faith, with the determination, with the cheerfulness, the humility, and the humor that is characteristic of the great people of the Emerald Isle. So here's to Ireland, here's to the United States of America, here's to our shared heritage, and here's to the confident hope that the ties between our people and the Irish people will only grow and expand as the years go on to the betterment of our people and the world. Thank you very much. This honor